Finally, the TRT Bodybuilding Longevity 2 DVD is a wrap. I understand that it's taken a little bit longer than I had anticipated, but we all deal with obstacles, and I've dealt with many. The information that follows is roughly 30 chapters and over 30 hours of information that details what I have done since 2013 when I was forced to make the decision as to how I was going to move forward dealing with my horrible RBC, hematocrit, and hemoglobin numbers. Where prior to that, for years and years and years, I had absolutely no problems and was never even out of range while I was on cycle. The decision I made was to move from cycling to only testosterone replacement therapy dosing, keeping my levels at roughly 1150 or 1200. I was surprised to find that the amount of muscle that I was able to hold allowed me to consider to still compete when I would have never thought that dropping my dosages so low and going with more of a healthy route, getting my blood back into range, that sort of thing, would still allow me to carry quite a substantial amount of muscle relative to what I had when I was competing in cycling. You cannot build a bunch of muscle on TRT, and I'm not going to claim that you can. But you can hold a lot of that muscle from years of training and possible cycling on just TRT dosing. I'm going to detail not only my TRT protocol and the few ancillaries that I use in conjunction with my TRT dosing, but I'm also going to go into the changes that I've had to make in my training, my nutrition, my OTC supplementation, that sort of thing. When you are running TRT dosing, your nutrition and your training has to be pretty much dead on. It has to be very, very precise, very efficient. You have to be able to maximize your recovery because obviously it won't be the same as when you're on cycle. It's taken me quite a while to figure it out. I thought that it would be a very simple process, or relatively simple, and it's just not that simple. It's much like being natural in a sense, where you can't rely or fall back on the cycling for you to grow or maintain muscle. Everything has to fit together almost like a puzzle, I guess. So I'm going to detail a lot of this information over the next 30 chapters. I'm also going to get into things like my chronic lower back issues and how I was able to train around them and rehabilitate my lower back to the point where I'm probably at roughly 90% today. I haven't had a major lower back issue in almost 3 years, knock on wood. And everything seems to be going very well in that sense. I could squat, I could do heavier bent over rows. However, I still do admit that I have it in the back of my mind because you shit in the shower standing up a couple times and you tend to not forget it. So even though those types of things happened almost 3 years ago, they are still very fresh in my mind. I go into other information like the SCGS compound, which is a super compensation glycogen storage compound. I also go into what I consider to be the fat burner, which I experimented with for the first time this year, had excellent results, and then did not. And I'll get into that more in the fat burner chapter. I will not mention what the fat burner is by name. You'll either know what it is or you won't. And I'm not going to be that person that gives out information on this compound and is perceived as advocating or condoning the use of the compound. I am simply passing on information based on my experience over the last roughly 5 years since I've had to make the transition from regular cycling or regular gear use to TRT dosing. I think that whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced trainee, I think that there is information on this DVD that runs the gamut. So you may be 20-something and think to yourself, well, what does this old man have to say at 47 years old that is going to benefit me? Maybe not much. However, if you have the perspective that you are 20-something and you're going to be doing this for quite a while and you want to be proactive then I think a lot of this information will pertain to you. I was 20-something once too. I was made of rubber, didn't have many injuries, didn't have any problems running gear cycles. Blood was in range even while I was on cycle. So if you're looking down the pike and you want information for the future on how to be proactive and not end up in a similar situation that I was in, or people in my demographic, because a lot of them, after years of cycling, years of training, have to deal with a lot of the things that I'm going to discuss on this DVD. Advanced trainees, you may think, well, you know, what do I have to learn about Skip's training? Maybe not much. Maybe the training footage isn't going to be terribly valuable to you at all, but I'm a funny son of a bitch, so you might miss some funny shit in there. On top of that, my experience with the fat burner and the SCGS compound, things of that nature, you may find informational. And maybe something that you can take away from my experience and either benefit from directly, or at least be aware that as much as you think you know about specific compounds, maybe you've used them quite a bit, there are still things that can get out of your control and that you cannot see that can cause huge problems. I throw in a bunch of fun stuff. I got some family stuff in there. I don't get the goose to dance, but we do a little lip syncing to some One Direction. There's just some fun stuff to follow. A lot of information. It's a lot of hard work on my end, and it's absolutely free. So I hope you enjoy the information that follows, and I'd appreciate it too if you could pass it on to the people you train with or your friends and let them know that my information is out there. The more people who see it, I guess the better that I will feel about my monetary investment, because putting things out there might be free to you, but they're not exactly free to me.